They sat me at the kids' table on my own birthday. Not by accident, not because we ran out of chairs. They did it on purpose, and every single person in that dining room knew it. I was turning 19. I had driven 40 minutes in the rain to get there. I had spent $63 I didn't have on a cake from Patsy's Bakery on Elm Street because my mum said, and I quote, "Just bring something nice, don't make it a whole thing." And when I walked through that door, arms full, hair wet, smiling like an idiot, my aunt pointed to the folding table in the corner, the one with the plastic dinosaur plates, and said, "We saved you a spot, sweetie." I didn't say a word. I set the cake down on the counter. I looked around the room, and I made a decision that changed everything that came after. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Cassie. I'm 19, I live in Beaumont, Texas, and up until 8 months ago I thought my family was just loud, chaotic, the kind of messy that you roll your eyes at but still drive 40 minutes in the rain for. My mum, Linda, had me at 22 and never let me forget how much she sacrificed. Not cruelly, she wasn't mean about it, but it was always there, like background noise, a hum underneath everything. Her sister, my Aunt Debra, had married well a guy named Frank who ran a medical supply company out of Houston, and those two families had been in competition my whole life without anyone ever admitting it. I was the one who fell through the crack between them, Mum's kid. The one who worked a closing shift at Whataburger 4 nights a week and was taking 14 credit hours at Lamar University. Trying to become the first person in my immediate family to actually finish a degree. I was tired all the time. But I was proud of tired. I thought I was building something. I had no idea what I was walking into. The tension started the summer before my birthday, June. The heat sitting on Beaumont like a wet blanket. The kind of July that makes you understand why people leave Texas. My grandmother Nana Ruth had gotten sick. Not emergency sick, but the kind of slow-moving sick that makes everyone nervous in a different way. She was 81, sharp as a tack, and she still lived alone in the house on Magnolia Drive, where she'd raised 4 kids. And Debra decided without asking anyone that Nana Ruth needed help. Specifically, she decided Nana Ruth needed me. The phone call came on a Tuesday night. I was in the Whataburger parking lot, still in my uniform, eating fries I'd earned. Mum called and said Debra had suggested I move into Nana's spare room, help around the house, cook a few nights a week, drive her to appointments. In exchange, I'd live rent-free. I was paying $580 a month for a room in a house with 3 other girls near campus. $580 that I was bleeding for. So yes, I said yes. What I didn't know was that in exchange didn't mean what I thought it meant. The first month was fine. Nana Ruth was sweet, a little forgetful, and she made the best brisket in Southeast Texas. I drove her to her cardiologist on Thursdays. I cleaned the kitchen. I changed her sheets. I thought I was helping. But Debra started calling more. Not to check on Nana Ruth to give me instructions. Specific instructions. The curtains needed to be washed every 2 weeks. The garden needed watering on a schedule. She emailed me, an actual email, with a chart. She wanted photos of the refrigerator contents sent weekly so she could approve the grocery list. I was living rent-free, yes. I was also working 30 hours a week, taking 14 credit hours, and now running a household on Debra's terms from 200 miles away. And every time I pushed back, even gently, she'd say the same thing. Well, nobody forced you to be there, Cassie, that line. I heard it so many times I started hearing it in my sleep. By October, the rest of the family had started treating Nana's house like it was a hotel and I was the front desk. My cousin Tyler Debra's son, 24, never worked a job longer than 3 months, would show up unannounced and expect lunch. My mum would call asking me to remind Nana to take her pills, as if I wasn't already doing that. As if I needed a reminder to remember to remind. And Nana Ruth, sweet, sharp Nana Ruth, started saying things like, "You're so good to me, baby. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of." I didn't know what she meant. I didn't ask. I was too tired to want anything except 8 hours of sleep and one Saturday morning where nobody needed me. Then came the birthday. December 14th. Nana Ruth had suggested a family dinner at her house. She wanted to celebrate me, she said. She'd told everyone. Cassie's birthday, Magnolia Drive, 6 o'clock. I worked a lunch shift, got home by 4, showered, and picked up the cake I'd ordered, lemon with white frosting, my favourite from Patsy's on Elm Street. 63.50. More than I should have spent. But Nana had asked me specifically to bring something you love, not something you think everyone else wants. By the time I got to the house, the driveway was full. Both of Debra's cars, my uncle's truck, Tyler's Jeep with the cracked bumper he'd never fixed. Everyone was already there. I walked in through the back door like I always did. The kitchen smelled like Debra's pot roast she'd cooked. In Nana's kitchen. Without asking me, without telling me, without even a text. I set the cake on the counter and walked into the dining room. The big table, Nana's mahogany table that seated 8, was full. Debra, Frank, Tyler, my Uncle Gene, his wife Patricia, my mum, and 2 of my cousins I barely knew. All seated. All with place settings. Debra looked up, smiled the way she smiles, the one that doesn't reach her eyes, and pointed to the corner. We saved you a spot, sweetie, the folding table, the one with the dinosaur plates from when Tyler was 7. Set for 1. I stood there for 3 seconds. I know it was 3 seconds because I counted 1, 2, 3, breathing through my nose the way I do when I'm trying not to cry in front of people who will use it against me. Nana Ruth was at the head of the big table. She looked at the folding table. Then she looked at me. And something moved across her face that I can't fully describe. Not surprise. Not quite sadness. More like confirmation. Like she'd been waiting to see if they'd really do it. I picked my cake up off the counter. I said, "I'm not hungry," and I walked out the back door. Nobody followed me. That's the part I still think about. I sat in my car in the driveway for 20 minutes. The rain had started again. I had the heater running and the cake in the passenger seat, and I just sat there. Then I drove to the Whataburger on College Street, the one I didn't work at, and I ate a #1 combo in my car in the parking lot. Alone, on my birthday. And I cried so hard I had to take off my glasses because I couldn't see anyway. That night I went back to Nana's house because I lived there. Because I had a 7 a.m. shift in the morning and 30 pages of reading due Thursday and nowhere else to go. I went back and I washed Debra's pot roast pan because it was in the sink and I couldn't sleep with dishes in the sink. That was my lowest point. Not the table. Not the party. Washing her pan at midnight on my birthday because I had conditioned myself to serve people who didn't see me as someone worth celebrating. The next 3 weeks were the quietest of my life. I stopped calling my mum back same day. I stopped responding to the family group chat. I kept taking Nana to her Thursday appointments. I kept doing my job, the actual job I'd agreed to, driving and cooking and being present, but I pulled everything back that wasn't on the contract. Nobody noticed. That told me everything. The shift came on a Thursday in January. Cardiologist appointment, same as always. Doctor. Medina's office on Calder Avenue. The one with the fish tank in the waiting room that Nana liked to stand in front of for 10 minutes before she'd agree to sit down. After the appointment, on the drive home, Nana said, "I updated my will in November. I didn't say anything. I just drove." "The house goes to you," she said, "if you want it. If you don't, it sells and you get half the proceeds. Either way." I pulled over on Magnolia Drive, 3 houses from hers, and I turned off the car. She told me she'd made the decision before my birthday. Before the dinner. But watching what happened, watching her family seat me at the children's table like I was an afterthought in my own celebration, in the house I'd been running for 6 months had made her certain. Not just the house. A savings account too. $42,000 she'd been setting aside since the 90s. Money that Debra didn't know about and Frank would never find. You didn't do this for the money, Nana said. I know that. That's exactly why. I didn't cry this time. I was too shocked to cry. I just nodded. And we sat there for a while in the car on Magnolia Drive with the January sun coming through the windshield. Both of us quiet. And it was the first time in months I'd felt like I could breathe all the way down. Nana Ruth passed in March. Peacefully, in her own bed, which was what she wanted. I was in the house when it happened. I was the one who called everyone. The funeral was at Grace Fellowship on Dowland Road. I sat in the front row. Debra sat next to me, and I could feel her looking at me the whole service, like she was trying to read something in my face. The will was read 2 weeks later by Nana's attorney, a woman named Sandra Okafor, in an office on Calder Avenue, 4 blocks from the cardiologist. Debra and Frank were there. Tyler was there. My mum was there. When Sandra got to the part about the house and the savings account, the room went completely silent. The kind of silent where you can hear the air conditioning. Debra looked at me. Her face went through about 6 things in 3 seconds. And then she said, very quietly, she wouldn't do that. But she had. She absolutely had. Frank said something about contesting the will. Sandra told him the document had been notarized, witnessed, and prepared 11 weeks ago by a licensed estate attorney with no evidence of coercion or incapacity. Nana Ruth had been sharp until the end. Everyone in that room knew it. Tyler left without speaking to me. My mum hugged me in the parking lot and cried and said she was proud of me, and I held her and didn't say anything. Because I didn't have anything to say yet. Debra walked past me on her way to the car. She stopped. She looked at me for a long moment. And she said, I hope it was worth it. I said, the house or the time? She didn't answer. She got in the car. And that was the last conversation we had. I still live on Magnolia Drive. I'm finishing my sophomore year at Lamar. Still 14 credit hours. Still tired, but a different kind of tired now. The kind that comes from building, not from disappearing. The $42,000 is in a high-yield savings account. I'm not touching it until I graduate. The house needs work, the gutters, the back porch, but it's mine. My name is on the deed. I still water the garden on the schedule Debra emailed me. Not because she told me to, but because it was Nana's garden and it's still growing. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. Being underestimated is only a tragedy if you internalize it. I spent 6 months being treated like furniture in a house I was keeping alive. And the bitterest part isn't that they did it, it's that I almost started believing them. My birthday is in December. This year I'm having people over. People who know my name. People who would never, in a million years, point me to a folding table. I bought lemon cake from Patsy's. The same one. I ate the whole thing. And this time I sat at the head of the table.